Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner Studios. With me today is Howard Seville. He is the insurance guru from Skyline Insurance Agency on the bypass. Howard, good to have you here with us.
Thank you.
I got wind that you had just won an award for Best of 2019 Agency here. I got your plaque. Mark, I'm going to hold this up and see if you can get it without too much glare there. You got that there? All right, look at that.
Yeah.
So that looks good. It says Skyline Insurance Agency for automobile insurance for Business Hall of Fame 7 consecutive years. That's a long time.
We've had good staff. We've been very blessed with the people we've had working who take care of their neighbors.
Right. Well, they do a good job of that. The only thing I got to tell you about, we got to change that hold music on your phone.
But it's the only hold we have. You either get the music or you speak to a person.
That's
There's
true.
no message.
That's right. There's no message. That's great. One thing about it, when I called you, Johnny on the spot, they answered the phone right there. You always been responsive. So tell me about how they went about selecting you to get this award.
Yeah, it's funny is I didn't know much about the award. They notified us that they had measured us against our impact in the community, and not just the volume of business we sell, but they said about the quality of service that we delivered. I had no idea what it was, and then we were notified that we were the recipients of this award.
Right.
And it wasn't popularity. It was looking at our impact on the community. And
So a survey from all the other agencies as well.
And again, I
And
don't know
around the
about the
area?
other insurance
Sure.
agencies. We're their competition.
Friendly competition.
Oh, yes.
I know that to be true. I know that to be true. It's a really amazing. Some of these, nowadays we have a lot of award programs, and you wonder like how in the world these things come about. But either way, it was probably well deserved. And so while we're at it, let's talk a little bit about Skyline Insurance Agency and tell me some of the things you do and what your specialties are.
Well, for years we specialized on what's called personal lines, where individuals' homes, their cars, their life insurance, umbrellas, toys, and we have about 33 companies that we represent. Typically, someone will call in if they have a rotten driving record or a super preferred. We shop to find which company best suits their needs. Now, we can't cover them all. There's 1,500
Sure.
companies doing business in Virginia, but we're over the top in this area with over 30 carriers. If a kid's a startup who's never had insurance before, we have a home for him, and we can teach him how to graduate up into preferred rates and try to educate him on what he needs to do to get a better price.
Yeah, I don't think people sometimes think about that. How things are measured. Like their credit score and their driver. All this thing is all tied together. And nowadays, even look at your social media. So.
Well, it's funny also, there's a thing in Virginia called an SR22. Everybody used to think of it for a DUI.
Exactly.
And that's not it anymore. In Virginia, they have a guideline that says if you have active registration, like the tags on your car, you're required to have insurance. So an example is if your car dies and you say, hey, I'm going to drop insurance. Why should I insure a vehicle that doesn't run?
And you left those license plates on there.
And the state will fine you $500 for each vehicle and take your license. Then you've got 3 years with an SR22, which requires you to carry insurance whether you own a vehicle or not. It's punitive. So when someone comes in, for example, to drop a car, we have them sign off on a form, and one of the questions is, have you talked to DMV? And I said to many people that our extra day of insurance is very cheap compared to what you would pay.
Well, I noticed Virginia, correct me if this is not the way it is now, but they had this thing called continuous coverage. And so a lot of policies expire at midnight and the other ones don't start till 12:01, and the state would come by and people would get their notice, oh, your license has been suspended 3 months ago, and they just found out about it because of this continuous coverage. Is that still the case?
We've seen it waived. I've seen questions where people will get a document from DMV in the mail, and for our customers, if you get that, bring it to our office. We will answer them and take care of that for you.
Right. Yeah, but like you said, that extra day of coverage is cheap insurance, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially you're dealing with the DMV. They got those rules, and there's no there's no gray.
Well, and as it's been automated, I joked, I said they're balancing the budget on this.
All right. Oh, I called your office a little earlier in the year about this D&O and the directors and what's it called?
Directors and officers.
Director and officers, and what's the other one called? E&O?
E&O, errors and omissions.
And it was kind of brought up when we were talking about this EDA situation, and some of the people said, well, do they have insurance against these things? Tell us a little bit about D&O and E&O and what is really all this, what does all this mean?
Well, typically, and I'll start with D&O.
Okay.
That's directors and officers. If you're on a board of directors for a company or the EDA or something like that, this is insurance that says if you're being sued because someone has perceived that they have been wronged. Unfortunately, it will not cover theft of money.
Exactly.
It's just not available.
But
So-
the EDA does have a policy. I called and asked them. They do have a D&O policy.
And
But
that's
it's-
fitting. It should
right.
be, and we won't know details until we get a chance to read it.
Exactly.
Now, an E&O is errors and omissions. If someone makes a mistake or they forget to put something on it, then that's an errors and omissions. Typically, you see that in title companies.
Right.
We carried for an insurance agency. If we make a mistake that should have been covered,
Right.
it's covered for the client.
Right. I understand they make these insurance agencies carry a pretty healthy policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're quite expensive.
It's kind of like doctor's malpractice. It's kind of like malpractice
Well,
insurance.
absolutely, an error or omission. If they forget to take something out.
Well, or put something in they
Yes.
shouldn't have, right? I was just curious because, like I said, some people have asked us about, well, they must have insurance for all these losses. That would be a heck of a claim.
It would be certainly great for our town, but
Right.
I don't think it's covered at all. Sometimes in a regular general liability policy, there is an endorsement that adds employee dishonesty, but that's usually nominal. I don't think it's to the
Right.
anything would be to the scope.
Well,
of
right,
what we're
and
dealing
I
with.
and I did get the limits on their policy, and it's nominal, and so, but it's per event. So if there's a lot of events, it could pay something, I guess. But
It
I
depends
just
on how they drag that
that's
forward.
well, and that's only when there's somebody found guilty of it, and after the result of all their appeals. So it could be a lot of years before things would materialize. In any case, whether it was here or there, I guess. What other kind of things in insurance? I tell you one thing that I want to talk about, since renter's insurance, and how many people don't have it. Tell us about that.
It's incredible. I would say less than 10% of the renters in our area, or any area, have renter's insurance, and it is so inexpensive. For the most part, if you have minimal things, 15,000 of your personal belongings, could be $125 a year for this coverage. So if the place that you rent has a fire, the landlord most likely has protection to rebuild his own building, but they don't care about your clothing, your TV, your furniture, all of the things, or your children's things. They're not covered. This coverage is just not expensive at all, and it's worth having. In addition, sometimes some companies give you a discount. If you buy it, they give you a discount off your auto. Makes it almost free.
Almost free. I noticed we had that fire down in the apartment building, and it was a large claim, but I was told that the people didn't have any renter's insurance. So you're out your whole life. I mean, a lot of people, they have everything they own is in that apartment.
And it's incredible how often we will bring it up, and they're like, it's an extra $10 or $12 a month. They're unwilling to do it until they see somebody else get hit with an event. Then it's like, boom, they go out the door.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because that's one thing. Well, telling people like this, I can see how you get an award.
Well,
I mean, that's part of what we're talking about. But renter's insurance, I know, is one thing. Homeowner's insurance, automobile. Something about automobile insurance that kind of surprised me. I kind of learned, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, because I travel around and hear all these stories. And that's gap insurance. Tell me about that. We have that in Virginia, because I noticed, we have a very low mandatory insurance rate.
Okay. The gap insurance is usually for people who are buying a car and say they're upside down
Right.
on it. They owe more money than the vehicle's worth, and then it's in an accident. and the insurance company will pay what is the current value of the vehicle, but that's not as much as the loan.
Right.
Well, the gap insurance will go in and cover that difference.
Right.
You can buy it two ways. If your car insurance company has that as an option, you can buy it. It's not real expensive, or you can buy it directly from the dealership, whoever's doing the financing. I would
Nowadays, cars cost, you're financing your car for 5 or 6 years, and the value, you can owe on it more than what the thing's worth sometimes.
quite regularly, because so many people here commute up into Fairfax County, into DC. They're pounding mileage on their cars,
Right.
and it's depreciating, or it's reducing the value of the car rapidly.
Right.
And as a result, they would be upside down because of the mileage.
Right.
It's a good idea to get the gap, again, be it from your insurance company or from the dealership. It's a great idea.
And another thing brought up is we've all heard about uninsured motorists, but now I heard something called underinsured motorists. Tell me about that.
It's mandatory in Virginia. If you buy a policy, regardless of the limits you have, that will be included. Uninsured motorists is, say somebody hits you and they don't have any insurance at all. Your policy will pick up and cover you after a $200 deductible up to the limits that you chose to buy. The same thing applies for underinsurance. Let's say somebody had the state minimum and they hit your car, and the state minimum mandates $20,000 of coverage to replace your vehicle, but you have a $50,000 car. Your insurance will pick it up and cover the rest. Again, minus the $200 deductible.
Right. But if you didn't have this underinsurance, you
stuck.
get the $20,000 and that's it.
And a new payment.
On top of your old
Yes.
payment. But is there anything else? Those are just things that I've thought about that are kind of people just kind of don't really know about. You don't think about it because rarely do you need it.
Well, one thing actually two things. One thing on automobile coverage, a lot of people say, look, I want the minimum I'm required to have. Well, the problem with the minimum you're required to have is if you're one of these commuters going up into Fairfax County, you don't hit one car. If you're on 66 and you
Exactly.
hit somebody, you're pushing them into the next car. Next thing you know, you bought two, and $20,000 isn't going to cover it.
Right.
We recommend higher than minimum limits to make sure you have enough that nobody can come back and attach your wages for what coverage you should have had.
Exactly.
Because you don't know if you're going to win or lose a case.
And these are really small. To go up into limits, really not expensive. I mean,
you may be dealing $2 to $3 extra a month
right.
to move you from minimum to the next highest level.
Another thing that brings up is umbrella insurance. Umbrella insurance. So, like, I carry a $300,000 automobile policy, then I carry $1 million umbrella policy. Tell me what that would cover.
Well, again, it would be $1.3 million of coverage if you were in an accident. And let's use a tough scenario where all of a sudden I have a health issue, I lose control of my car, I hit somebody, and I do serious damage to someone else. And the medical treatments are going to go $1 million. Well, instead of them being able to come after my personal assets, it'll use up all my car insurance. And before they can get my other personal assets, my home, my savings, or my retirement, it'll go to that umbrella policy, which could be $250, maybe $300 a year.
Yeah, I notice it's not really very expensive compared to the value that it provides, that peace of mind. And nowadays, like you said, driving these cars that cost, well, a new Suburban now is base price is $65,000. My wife told me today, you're driving this one till the wheels fall off of
Yes.
it. So, but yeah, you're right. And nowadays a scratch on your fender is $800.
We see it on a bumper, minimum $1,500 each pop. Just a little scratch, you say, damage the plastic.
I know.
And it's $1,500. I recommend an umbrella if someone has their first child or their oldest child is reaching a point where within a year they're going to get a license, which just tells me that pretty soon they're going to get a permit. They're going to be driving, and you are liable. So it's like, let's see, it's going to cost a bundle to add my child to the policy because youthful drivers have most accidents.
Exactly.
But I would get an umbrella at that time because that's when you're at probably the highest risk of a high claim.
Right, because it's really protecting your assets. The child doesn't really have anything, so that you have that responsibility as being the parent. They're going to come after. Nowadays we just watch TV. You know what they do, right?
The other thing is to throw the umbrella out the door to look at when is it appropriate to have the lower limits. As much as I like to recommend higher ones, there are times that if someone's on a subsistence budget, they're only getting Social Security, they don't own property that a judge could take.
Right.
Take the minimum.
Right.
I mean, if you've got the extra and you know that you're driving into densely populated areas, then you should have more than the minimum.
Right. You can't get blood out of a turnip. Is that how that works?
Right. If it's just not there, they're not getting it.
Exactly.
And they won't take your last dime.
Right. Well, it's interesting because there's a lot of things in insurance that people really don't know about. And I know that you're always a wealth of information. And I know that people can call you, come into the office, make an appointment, have their policies. And you did this for me. You looked at what I had, said yay, nay, I can do good, better, stay where you're at, and you'll evaluate people and give them an opinion of what they should do.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you that it's not me. It's the kids working in the office. They are well-educated professionals. One thing that's kind of strange in our world, we don't pay them commission. The only raise they get is if they get industry designations, that they've taken coursework so they can deliver a better answer to the customers and do the right thing. So those items, they take classes. We pay for their classes.
That's the incentive to do better, to provide a better service.
Yes, we want to make sure that we have the best educated staff in Virginia.
Well, that's great. Well, that's how you win awards.
Yeah,
Well, Howard, I really appreciate you coming by. Is there anything else you want to lay on us?
I would name all the staff. I have Mallory Campbell, Rachel Alger, Gina. I just went blank on it.
A senior moment, Howard.
Yeah, Gina Young and Diamond Maldonado, and we'll add somebody new. We like to have too much staff so we can get to the phones quickly.
Exactly. Well, you do answer the phones quick, and I appreciate that. Well, Howard, again, it's nice seeing you again, and I appreciate you coming in and talking to us. We're glad about you got this award. Next year, you'll be 8 consecutive years, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
All right.